Tactical Breach Wizards. Go play it. Video over. Okay, I guess I'll talk about why you should play it. It's time to lock in. Tactical Breach Wizards is a turn-based strategy and tactics game developed by Suspicious Developments, Inc., an independent studio founded by PC Gamer alumnus Tom Francis. Part of what catches me off guard for this based on the research I was doing is that Tactical Breach Wizards is actually the third major game developed by the studio. The others are called Gunpoint and Heat Signature, and they make a loose Cornetto Trilogy style grouping called the Defenestration Trilogy, which I adore. But I'm bringing this up because it adds context to some of the stuff I'm gonna be talking about in this week's video, mainly about why Tactical Breach Wizards is one of the best games I've played all year. I know I throw that around a lot, but the last few months have been, from an indie perspective, nothing but bangers. So let's get into it, shall we? The game begins by following Zan Vesker, a Black Ops specialist doing a hostage rescue that ends with his partner disappearing. Jump forward 2 years and it swaps perspectives to Jen Kentlin, a private investigator who runs into Zan while at the local police station following being questioned by the cops for a missing persons case she was investigating. From there, all hell breaks loose, and after escaping, Jen decides to help Zan with tracking down his old partner, a Black Ops chronomancer named Liv Kennedy. To say things fly off the handle from there would be a goddamn understatement. Tactical Breach Wizards takes place in a setting where magic and modern technology coexist, and it's best shown in one specific way: how magic can be straight up militarized. This is a world where governments, militaries, private military contractors, criminal outfits, and even local law enforcement all use magic to exert control in specific ways. Mana is a mineable resource that people have wars over and can be used to create a version of the stuff that acts like an addictive drug, and that's just for one specific region. The story goes to a different country in the third act, and we see how its primary religious institution is effectively using magic, technology, and carefully worded dogma to create a fascist theocracy that brutally suppresses dissenting voices and is attempting to steal land and resources from a neighboring country, specifically the country that broke off from it following a revolution in the 40s. Tactical Breach Wizards is very clearly trying to say things about war, politics, religious persecution, fascism, resource wars, and the military-industrial complex is the broad strokes big idea stuff, and I'm picking up what it's putting down, and it's all balanced with a lot of great character drama and self-aware humor. I shouldn't be surprised because I know from years of reading his writing that Tom Francis is a very good writer who is both very smart and very funny. But the skill at which the writing balances both very serious issues and themes while also having every other conversation range from being chuckle-worthy to laugh-out-loud hilarious is to be commended. There are multiple times throughout the story that it gets into some Hideo Kojima-adjacent territory in terms of using its game mechanics to tell its story, and it's all incredibly well done. The high quality of the writing in Tactical Breach Wizards also extends to characters and dialogue. You get a good showing of the dynamics and personalities of each character in the story, and it's used in another way in the form of dreams and dream missions that can be played as training for different scenarios. I never messed with them because I preferred to play it by ear regarding what the game threw at me. What can I say? I like surprises. But back to the writing, the cast of characters is an eclectic one because of how it mixes and matches different styles of magic with different tactical styles. Zan is a former Navy seer, you get it, whose precognition lets him see a second into the future and makes him a breaching expert. Jen is a freelancer who uses magic to track people down, and Dessa Banks is a former surgeon and mob doctor who uses necromancy to revive patients, and so on. A large part of the comedy comes from the inherent ridiculousness of the premise being played straight, which also has the side effect of making the more emotional and serious dramatic beats land with the weight that they need to. At the end of the day, this is just an incredibly well-written video game. I urge you to go in as fresh as you can, because some bits in here took me the fuck out. But that's enough about the great writing. Let's get to the equally great design and gameplay. Tactical Breach Wizards is, like I mentioned at the start of this video, a turn-based strategy game. Specifically, Wonder draws a lot from things like the earlier Rainbow Six games and, perhaps more fittingly, XCOM and XCOM Chimera Squad, right down to the latter's breach mechanics, though the ones in Tactical Breach Wizards are far less in-depth. The game and story are split across 4 acts containing roughly 30 missions in total that consist of 3 to 5 rooms, usually with varying objectives that consist primarily of knocking all enemies out. You get a movement phase and an action phase, and eventually a way to restore both of those. A huge part of the gameplay is also Zan's ability to see into the future by 1 second. It manifests itself in the form of the Foresight and Rewind mechanics. The former shows you the order of operations for how enemies react in the aftermath of your turns, and the latter lets you undo actions you've taken to try a different approach. It offers a lot of room for experimentation, and it ties nicely into bonus objectives that incentivize you to try different solutions. The 5 operatives you control are what would happen if a bunch of wizards became operators in Rainbow Six Siege. You've got Zan, the aforementioned Navy Seer, who can fire out 3-shot bursts from his assault staff, set up Overwatch-style predictive bolts, give teammates an extra action, and send out time duplicates of himself as a distraction. Jen focuses on storm magic to control enemy position and defenestrate them out of windows, or as I like to call it, tactical yeeting. Banks is your necromantic, her words, not mine, that can bring the other team members back to life from the dead, use sedative mixtures to poison and weaken enemies, and overall focuses on team safety. 2 other characters join later in the story to round out the rest of the squad. The first is Dal Sabin, a freedom fighter from Kalan who joins the team when they agree to help the resistance overthrow their country's fascist theocracy. She focuses on being a tank by way of full-on riot gear appropriated from her oppressors, and a flail made of rope and spray paint cans. It's fucking awesome. She moves fast, hits hard, and can take a hit. And lastly, Rion. He's a hitman associated with the Druid Mafia. Yes, Druids are mafiosos in this setting, stick with me. That can destroy armor and use plant-based magics and wild shaping into a dog to subdue his enemies. He joins pretty late into Act 3. These 5 characters all have abilities that can be mixed and matched for some great combinations of strategies, and get new powers as the story progresses. My favorite is when Jen gets the ability to breach from windows using her flying broomstick, and the only reason you don't know about it sooner is because she had forgotten about it until that very moment. Which is hilarious in hindsight and also a bit of a mood at the same time. And you will need those because the ways the challenge opens up as the game goes on is some impressive difficulty tuning and scaling. The enemy forces in Tactical Breach Wizards can be summed up as tough as nails as a starting point. You at first fight lowly cops and even a traffic warlock whom Jen simply can't stop dunking on, and it's great. And from there, you deal with private military contractors with substantially more firepower, automated turrets, which can thankfully be hacked, sappers that can block magic dudes in riot armor and shields, and this leads into the upper echelons of the Chapel's forces, who themselves have the above, and also have sentry forces that shoot at you whenever you shoot at one of their allies, priests that make enemies invulnerable, and mortar specialists that fire out AoE mana-draining bombs. And this is before we get into the super heavy assault robots. And then it's back to the aforementioned PMC, which has found a way to use some really, really nasty magic for their own purposes. Yeah, Tactical Breach Wizards does not fuck around with difficulty. It eases you into the greater challenge by the end of Act 1, but by the end of Act 3, I was getting my ass kicked. And while there are some changes you can make to the difficulty, I elected to do it only once because I was just frustrated on a specific encounter. The difficulty system is still good in Tactical Breach Wizards, but I don't like how in the lower difficulties, they just kind of tell you how to beat special encounters with the hint system. That's kind of whack. But I didn't mind because I found myself just writing shit down for notes to try different tactics. I was writing notes. I don't do that for these videos. I just vomit words in a Google Doc until I pass out. All of the stuff I mentioned was only just the minute-to-minute gameplay. I haven't even gotten into the simple but effective skill system that makes all of your characters absurdly powerful by the end of the game, the dream training missions for extra confidence that lets you get new outfits, or the anxiety dreams that get your capstone abilities and give each character a strong dose of character development. But even then, the dream stuff is optional. Not the anxiety dreams, those are part of the main plot. This brings up something I haven't talked about until now, and that's how Tactical Breach Wizards, much like the earlier in the year banger Mullet Mad Jack, is all killer, no filler. While that game was a pure adrenaline rush that cut straight to the point, Tactical Breach Wizards embodies the all killer, no filler attitude by way of doing exactly what it needs to, no more, no less, and doing those specific things incredibly well. The tactical gameplay on display is some of the most focused I've seen in a long time, and it gives me huge XCOM Chimera Squad vibes. But while that game was bite-sized XCOM, it was still XCOM for good or ill, and I had already experienced that before. These feel almost like really well-made, hand-curated puzzles that can be solved in a multitude of ways, and it's awesome. Tactical Breach Wizards is sharply written, incredibly focused in its mechanics, and can balance its tone like a trapeze artist, and incredibly satisfying to just play. It's my favorite game to have come out this summer and stands out in an incredibly busy summer season. Give this one a go, I promise you won't regret it. Now, I'm gonna go play more Tactical Breach Wizards.